Hello chess friends, this is FIDE Master Valeri Lilov for geekswithchess.com, and today I'd like to share with you my thoughts and my suggestions on one of the most important subjects of preparation for any chess players from any kind of level, and this is how to master the middle game. First of all, I'd like to clarify what the middle game is, because many people really get kind of confused what the middle game is. Does that mean the middle of the game, and how do we understand whether it's in the middle of the game, or what is that? I mean, what's the middle game exactly? The middle game, like the opening and end game, is a stage of the game. The middle game usually we call those type of positions that begin after development of the pieces. This means when I say pieces, I generally neglect the pawns, because the pawns, well, then not that they're not pieces, but I'm talking about the knights, the bishops, the queen, and all the pieces which are standing on the back rank initially. So when all these pieces are out and the connection between the rooks is already made, so for example it happens often when white plays like this. He plays the bishop, he brings the knight, he plays, okay, those two type of e4, d3 are usually preparational to bring out this bishop. He brings out the queen, and finally when he castles, what happens is that usually the rooks get connected, and when the rooks get connected, then we have the middle game. Now this is really interesting, because usually many players think that the middle game is an area of the game where we start attacking or do something, and I think that it's not. It's just that when we connect our rooks, we can already consider ourselves having the enough preparation and setup of pieces in order to launch any kind of attack or additional strategy. That's what we call the middle game. Mastering the middle game is a very hard and difficult pattern that we have to know, and basically I would say it requires us to know the methods of how to master it and the ideas of how to play it, because I believe that the middle game is the game of the board, actually the stage of the game where more than 95% of the games are already being decided. So basically, every time when you play a game of chess, more than 90 to 95% of the games are decided in the middle game. So how can we master it? What I'd like to share with you right now is a very interesting exercise of a game that was played between two grandmasters, and I can give you then some suggestions on how you can master the middle game stage, how can you plan better, attack better, and most importantly, neutralize your opponent's possibilities better in order to master the middle game strategy. So we have in front of us a position that actually occurred in the game between the grandmasters Boleslavsky and Bondarevsky in the Tbilisi International Chess Tournament 1951. So this was a very interesting game which happened, and basically it was white who had to play here. This is white's turn. Now many things can be said about this position. Of course, white can start in different areas. Most people who see that position for the first time is going to say, okay, let's figure out where to attack. Or some others will immediately try searching for the best move, because they think that this way they can save time, they can do it quickly, and they can very easily come up with the right suggestion if they do it more in a more focused way, with they're more concentrated. But it's all illusion. I believe that in order to come up with the right strategy in such kinds of positions, I mean, okay, right now it doesn't seem like white has already finished the opening, but he's going to do it in just one or two moves, like with development of the bishop and the queen. So I believe that just in the end of the opening stage, basically the opening stage starts when the opening begins, and it finishes. This means the player connects the rooks, then we have the opening finish. Then we really need to begin thinking, even one or two moves before we finalize the opening and connect the rooks. We have to begin thinking exactly where our plan is going to take place once we develop. And this is one of these positions. White is just two moves away before developing his dark square bishop and the queen, and I believe that right now he can start thinking about the middle game activities that he would like to go. One of my major suggestions for finding the right plan in similar type of positions is to decide where do we have more potential. See, not that many people think about this simple concept. Where do we have more potential in this position? Potential in chess means possibilities, space, control, better resources that one can utilize. And when we think about the position, we can actually focus on the different areas of the board, like maybe the king's side, the queen's flank, and so on, and think about where does white have better positioning. Now at this point, most of you will just look and say, well, it doesn't seem to have a positioning anywhere, so how he can attack? And I say, he should not attack, therefore. If you see that you have no potential on any given area of the board, like you don't seem to be very well prepared, you don't seem to have more space, you don't seem to have any main threats to follow it, basically the most important is to consider improving your position. Improvements of the position can happen with slight moves, little by little, getting the pieces where they belong. Or even a better way to improve your position, and I would especially recommend it to the beginner and intermediate chess players, is to reduce the opponent's potential, reduce the activity of his pieces, and eventually the space. So right now, what White started with in this position was with the following idea: b2 to b3. Now when we look at the White perspective here, I don't believe that he has any advantage, nowhere. So neither on the king side, nor on the queen side, nor in the center, he has something. So he decides to try and start with the moves that first of all reduce the opponent's own activity. The black knight can't come up to c4, and as soon as White plays b3, then black continues with g6, White plays now knight e3. The slight preparation mixed with moves that reduce the opponent's activity help White to little by little reveal the power of his own pieces, and their potential becomes more important and stronger. So when White now plays the move of knight e3, black played knight g7, trying to improve a little bit on the king side, and now White continues developing. Each move is on purpose. Take a look how White is playing. Now the knight is actually putting pressure against the a5 knight, which is protecting by the queen, and now therefore the black's strongest piece, which is the queen, is currently put on a defense, and it can be flexible, it can literally move. The knight comes back, and now White plays rook c1, bringing the rook on an open file straight against the queen. Bishop d7, trying to finalize the development, and finally b4. It's a really impressive move that White makes right now. The pawn on b4 controls both the c5 and a5 squared, which literally makes it impossible for black to position a knight there or any other piece. In the same time, White is being quite ready to play a move like bishop to the b3 to open a threat against the queen, and all the White pieces are ready to go and jump against black. Look at how much black is reduced. None of his pieces can really do anything and become useful. So as soon as White plays b4, now we see one of the most important principles of the middle game: restriction of the opponent. Once we restrict these pieces, we can already manage and maneuver with ours as we wish. And when the knight comes to g4 right here, black can't even play f5. Why do you think so? After e takes f, I guess the rook is going to open a threat against the queen once the bishop moves and takes f5. So e takes f, g takes f, bishop takes f, and he'll be losing. So after knight g4, black played queen d8, intending to bring that queen away from the dangerous zone. And now queen to e2. The slight preparation in restricting his pieces is always making our opponents more nervous, because they see how their position gets restricted. Nobody likes being restricted, and if you play most in that, you see how your opponents will try to release their position, and sometimes in an inappropriate moment they can create a lot of weaknesses. Exactly what happened to black in this position. He played f5. If take e takes f5, g takes f5, knight h6 check, king back to h8, and what do we do now? Well, remember what I told you in the beginning. We plan or attack on this exact area where we have more potential, right? Where do you think White has more potential right here? It doesn't look like it's on the queen side, because on the queen side black is now having the open line for his rook. In the center he has a very good pawn majority. Of course. Where does black have a weakness? It's his king. The king is already standing quite weak and exposed, and that's why White has to play out there. The move of pawn to g4 is a magnificent one. Many people will judge White for such a move because it seems like he's opening the king. But look at that. Who is having more pieces on the king side? White. So how is black then supposed to attack you when you have more pieces on this area? He can't. And now the idea is to exchange his pawn and line up the bishop. Queen e8 with a little attempt to bring the queen to g6. Then g takes f5. Then knight takes f5. And what do we do now? Well, let's break through. Knight takes c5. A beautiful sacrifice which in result helps is eventually going to help black. White after d takes e, queen takes e5 check, bishop f6, in fact to exchange the queens and then very easily win the knight on f5, leaving black in a terrible position. So what can we say about this example? It went so quickly. I mean, from a position that seemingly was equal, neither White nor black were prepared, White won so quickly. So what did he do? What's the secret? Probably most of you are even asking, how can I play like that myself? I want to tell you something. If you want to play like that, if you want to plan better, remember these two essential ideas, which are the only secret for mastering the middle game. This is, first of all, every time before you start any attack or launch any strategy, anytime when you begin the middle game, when you have already connected the rooks and so, ask yourself, where do I have more potential? Where do I have a target? Where can I attack more significantly? And if you don't find, then here comes the second step. Most people really don't find any targets of the opponent on the early stage. And here comes the second step. When you don't find anything so significant on which you would like to attack, the second step is even simpler. Ask yourself, how can I restrict my opponent's most important and advanced pieces? And little by little, how can I improve the positioning of my pieces, bringing them to squares or positions from where they can have better prospects? If you only use that, you'll see that little by little, with more practice, and of course studying the master games like Karpov and some others, you'll be able to improve significantly and master the middle game as much as you can.